Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tuning into a really chilling mystery from the height of the Cold War. It's a story about phantom signals from the dark, silent abyss of space.
That right there, that's just a piece of an alleged transmission. They say it's the voice of a female Soviet cosmonaut filled with absolute terror as her capsule burns up on re-entry. And get this, it was supposedly recorded weeks before Yuri Gagarin ever made his famous flight.
And that, right there, is the explosive question at the heart of this whole thing. See, two Italian brothers claimed they had recorded proof that other people went up before him and they never came back. Okay, let's dive into this.
So we have to start with the evidence that sparked this entire legend. We're talking about a collection of incredibly eerie audio recordings, captured not by some government agency, but by two amateur radio operators who just pointed a homemade dish at the sky.
Right. So from their own makeshift command center, they started eavesdropping on the heavens. They were hoping to intercept transmissions from the space race. But what they claimed they stumbled upon was something way more sinister: the secret, deadly failures of the Soviet space program.
And the intercepts they said they captured were, well, they were horrifying. This wasn't just technical data, it was like a chronicle of human tragedy. Suffocation, burning alive, being lost forever in the void. They described this whole series of catastrophic failures, all supposedly hidden from the world.
Now, to really understand why these recordings were so powerful and why, for so many people, they were so believable, we need to get the context. We need to understand the world they came from, a world of intense competition and absolute total secrecy.
You see, for the Soviet Union, every single launch was a propaganda victory. Success had to look effortless, flawless. Failure? Not an option. And if it did happen, you certainly didn't acknowledge it. Secrecy was their most powerful weapon.
Just try to imagine this: entire communities, with schools and movie theaters and homes, all operating under a complete cloak of mystery. Star City was actually called Closed Military Townlet No. 1. It was a place dedicated to one single goal: beating the Americans to the stars no matter what it took.
And this level of control, it was absolute. The state managed the entire narrative. They created an official reality where accidents just didn't happen. So if a rocket blew up or a trainee got hurt, the public would never, ever hear about it.
Think about that for a second. If a cosmonaut in training became an embarrassment, or even worse, a casualty, they could be made to just vanish. Not just from the program, but from history itself. They'd be literally snipped out of photos like they never even existed.
So, with that kind of backdrop, these recordings from the brothers sound terrifyingly plausible, don't they? But, okay, let's switch gears and actually look at the evidence. Let's see how these incredible claims hold up when you really scrutinize them.
All right, here is the first huge red flag, and it's a technical one. One of the most famous recordings describes a capsule just veering off into deep space. The problem is, the rockets the Soviets were using in the early 60s simply didn't have enough power to escape Earth's orbit. That whole scenario was physically impossible at the time.
And then there's the language. When linguists and native Russian speakers actually listened to the tapes, they found all sorts of problems. Grammatical mistakes, really awkward phrasing, stuff that no trained cosmonaut or really any native speaker would ever say. It just didn't sound right.
So the crucial point here is that while the tapes totally captured the world's imagination, the scientific and linguistic consensus is, yeah, they're almost certainly fake. But, and this is a big but, that is not the end of the story, not even close.
Because here's the thing, the spirit of the Lost Cosmonauts conspiracy is rooted in a terrible truth. The Soviets did cover up the deaths of their cosmonauts. The ghosts are real, even if those specific voices from the void were not. Just look at these dates. We're talking less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks before Yuri Gagarin's triumphant flight made him a global hero, a horrific and completely secret tragedy struck the cosmonaut program.
Valentin Bondarenko was the youngest of all the original cosmonaut candidates. At the end of a grueling 10-day isolation test, he made a tiny, fatal mistake. See, the chamber he was in was filled with over 50% pure oxygen. The fire was instantaneous, and it just consumed everything. He even tried to smother it with his wool jumpsuit, which only made things worse.
So he became the first known casualty of the space race, a true lost cosmonaut. His very existence was just scrubbed from the official story, his death hidden behind a lie for a quarter of a century, all to protect the image of a perfect space program.
Now here's another story about a cosmonaut who was erased, but this one didn't die. Grigory Nyalubov, he was part of the elite Vanguard 6, the absolute top candidates for the first flight. He was basically number 3 in line. But his brilliant career was destroyed not by a technical failure, but by a single moment of drunken arrogance.
He refused to apologize. For that one moment of public embarrassment, for that breach of discipline, he wasn't just dismissed, he was systematically airbrushed out of official photos. He just vanished from the heroic story he was supposed to be at the center of. A ghost in the Soviet space machine.
Which, brings us right back to our main question. If the tapes are fake, why are we still so fascinated by the story? Why does this myth of the lost cosmonauts still have such a hold on us?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. The Soviet Union's own obsession with secrecy created the perfect vacuum for these kinds of conspiracies to grow. When the official story has missing pages, doctored photos, and secrets buried for 25 years, you really can't blame people for trying to fill in the blanks themselves.
It forces us to ask a really difficult question, doesn't it? When the historical record has been deliberately manipulated, you're left wondering, what other truths might still be out there, hidden in the static between worlds?
In the end, the Lost Cosmonauts theory is a chilling reminder that sometimes the stories we tell to fill a terrifying silence can become just as powerful and maybe just as important as the history we're actually allowed to know.